both your parents are Jewish?
My dad is.
Okay. And how was it growing up? And we'll get to your work as an educator.
Yeah, sorry, I totally like
This is
sidetracked us.
all. No, no, this is fine. All this stuff is very interesting, and I think it actually informs your political understanding even
Yeah,
more
I mean,
than
definitely.
your work, because I think you go into work because of your political understanding.
Yeah.
But so you did you grow up in the faith? What did you learn about
Um,
Judaism in particular and the Jewish people?
yeah. So my parents were both kind of lapsed. My mom was Protestant. My dad's Jewish. So we celebrated all the holidays, but um, didn't really go to church or Jewish services. Um, and like in Boston, especially in like Boston public schools, like very few other people are Jewish. Um, but both of my parents kind of like we're both kind of like the unifying thing about religions is that they say that you should like treat other people the way you want to be treated. And like so they kind of I remember like actually like being explicitly told this, like it's not, it doesn't, like my parents saying like our religions don't clash because they all like at heart say the same thing. um like my mom, like when we were in second, I don't remember why, like what prompted it, but like when I was in second grade she was like, we're not like cat, like, you know, obviously we're not Catholic, but like she's like, I like not so much, I'm not so much Protestant as like a secular humanist. Like I believe that like all human lives matter and like we don't really know what, you know, the afterlife is or anything like that, but just like be a good person while you're here. um
So your mom introduced the concept of secular humanism when you were in second grade.
yeah, yeah, like that's the kind of parents that I had.
Yeah, yeah.
um
Were they
and then
involved politically in their day? Like, did
yeah,
they
they both definitely were.
activism in
And
any kind of capacity?
yeah, I don't know, like they were like going to union marches and like um my mom was always like very clear about, like she was like, I'm a feminist, and like
Yeah.
what that means, and kind of like expected me and my sister to be feminists and have choices and stand up for ourselves and, you know, be good human beings.
And what did feminism mean to your mom? And what did it mean, like, in terms of the way that you learned from her?
Yeah. I've like been thinking about this since you since you kind of said like talk about how, you know, you got to your politics. So my mom was like this like blonde haired, blue eyed lady from New Jersey, um, who was super smart. She, you know, she went to Smith and then got her master's at like BC and then went to Brown for like a PhD that she never quite finished. That's like also kind of like very my mom. Um,
What was
and
she studying her
she
PhD in?
studied she studied Latin American like literature and culture. So like
Okay.
she like backpacked around South America like by herself in like the 60s and
She's
70s.
fluent in Spanish. Is she fluent in Spanish?
Yeah, so she actually passed away a few years ago, but yeah,
I'm
so
sorry
she
to
was
hear that.
fluent. Thanks. um, but she was fluent in Spanish. She actually, like, when she did go back to work, ended up being a Spanish and Latin teacher. Before she had me, she worked in like a neighborhood mental health clinic. That her only qualification was that she was fluent in Spanish.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was kind of thinking like she never like she wasn't, I don't think like this just wasn't in the lexicon then, but she wasn't like I'm an intersectional feminist, but she was like her lens was like beyond just kind of like women's rights. I
So,
like
sorry to interrupt. I think
no
there's a little
no
delay, but I think it's really interesting that you mentioned, okay, it wasn't in the lexicon to say intersectional feminist, but you know, I'll never forget after Donald Trump was elected and there was the Women's March, and some some woman, I forget which city it was, held up a sign that said, "If Hillary Clinton won, I'd be at brunch right now." And that just pissed me off. Like, it felt like so privileged to say that, like, okay, we're gonna just go on autopilot as long as, you know, we fulfill the gender quotas of what's going on, or gender quotas of our political, you know, whoever wins the elections and stuff. And it reeked of this privileged type of feminism, and I see it a lot in the United States, in the Democratic Party. And when it comes to feminism, I like to think of myself as a feminist, but I can't get along with these people who are like, "Oh, I'm a feminist, and Hillary Clinton should be president," when, you know, Hillary Clinton's policies would have totally ignored feminism if it came to, for example, Palestinian rights. You know, because like, you might be a feminist, but you're not going to support a Palestinian woman's economic justice. And so that's what it turns out to be in terms of intersectional feminism. You have to understand that it's also about racial justice, economic justice, international solidarity. In terms of my favorite model of like feminism that I follow is Annie Lennox. You know Annie Lennox, lead singer of Eurythmics?
Yeah, it was like, I know I've heard that name. I do not follow her on social media, but now I'll have to add her.
She's been super active with causes regarding AIDS, especially in Africa. And she's like, all right, well, like, in terms of feminism, let's make sure that women have, you know, that they have proper, I forget what it is, hygiene equipment. What's it called? Like, feminine hygiene products, for example, for their menstruation, or that they have access to birth control in certain places, or, you know, just very basic things that we take for granted in the West. That, if you look at the situation of women across the world, it's a totally different thing. So I think it's awesome that you say that you learned intersectional feminism from your mom, and that she was just keen to that topic, even though she might not have described it as such back in those days.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, too, like, I follow, I don't know if you follow Rachel Cargill on like Instagram or anything.
I've heard. Please explain. Just remind me.
She is a Black woman who kind of directs some of her education to like white women and white women who call themselves, who like say that they're feminists. And I'm not sure this idea like originated with her. I think I've seen it kind of other places, but she like articulates it really well, that like, if the goal of your feminism is to gain like equal footing with white men, then it's still predicated on like other people's oppression. So I don't know. I am always like scrolling Instagram, and in some ways like it's a terrible like millennial habit, but in some ways like that's where I want to like be as little part of the problem as I can, and like learn from as many different people as possible.
Well, I think it's funny you say that, just because, you know, seeing your posts and stuff, and I think social media is a great tool in terms of keeping each other sharp and letting each other know, especially us activists, like what the important issues are that we need to kind of look out for. And I guess one of the reasons why I wanted to have you, yes, you are a white female, but I'm seeing a lot of white women on Instagram do this like performative thing where it's like, you know, they'll do this whole post about, oh, I need to peel back the layers of my white privilege, and they kind of center it on themselves and their whiteness. And really, I wanted to have you here is because I don't see that from you. I think you go about it the right way, a very responsible way. You put white privilege on blast without batting an eyelash. You're just like, all right, like that's it. And I think it's important to see like where that comes from, you know, within you and everything. Um, can you explain that?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's kind of, I think like a lot of it is like my family, my parents. You know, my dad, my dad was like also a child psychologist who worked in schools. Um, my mom, like I said, like I don't, one of the kind of like example that I think of when I say that she was like an intersectional feminist without like necessarily calling herself that was like I came home from a friend's house like after like again like elementary school, and she's like explaining this stuff. I came home from like a play date and was like, "Mom, I've had this like magical drink. Can we get Nestle Quick next time we're at the store?" And she was like, "No, we don't buy Nestle because they make like baby formula, and the way that they kind of like make money or like made money in one instance was that like they went into these like poor South American communities and gave out samples and convinced these women to switch to Nestle baby formula. And then once the samples are gone, there's like not access to clean water, and they like can't really continue using this formula, but like now can't nurse their babies." And she's like, "And that's awful, and we don't support that company."
Wow. Wow, your mom was the real deal.
Yeah, like that's that's what I mean. And like not that my dad wasn't either, but like
No, but friends, thanks for tuning in to another clip of Johnny's Jabs. If you liked what you just saw, please be sure to share this with your family and friends and comment below. And if you want to get more content like this, it's easy. Just click the bell below to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Johnny Jabor. I'll catch you guys next.